and welcome to the Brockton Candidates Forum 2021. I'm Susanna Sudborough from the Brockton Enterprise, and I'll be your host today. And we're pleased to have in studio candidate for mayor and current city council at large, Tina Cardoso. So thank you so much for coming in, Tina. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you think you'd be a great choice for mayor?
Well, thank you for interviewing me, Susanna, and thank you for BCA for hosting the forum. I'm happy to be here with you today. So my name is Tina Cardoso, and I am a mom. I'm a registered nurse for 25 years, a nonprofit leader, a community activist, and like you said, city councilor at large, serving the first term in Brockton. So I think I'd make a good mayor because I'm well embedded in the community. I know this community well. I've raised 3 beautiful children here who have all graduated from Brockton High and gone on to higher education. I started a nonprofit here. We work on violence prevention in the city, youth empowerment, and domestic violence programs. So well connected to many of the other nonprofits and a lot of the other community leaders and activists. So I have a really good, very grounded in the community and a good sense of community here and good relationships. On the council, I've advocated for more transparency in the funding sources that come in for different programs. In funding in general, I voted against increase in property taxes and an increase in water bill for our residents. So really fighting to make sure that our residents are not getting, slammed with taxes, and that we're trying to generate new revenue to make sure that we're not burdening our taxpayers. So I think I have like a well-rounded approach to how I will govern the city. Being a registered nurse, I jumped in during a pandemic and was really, on top of things and helping to make sure that our residents stay safe. So all of that experience, I think, makes me a really great candidate.
Great. So for you, what do you think is the most important issue facing the city today?
There are many issues, Susanna, as you know. Brockton has a lot of issues with our infrastructure. Our technologies need to be updated. Crime, as we know, there's been an uptick in crime. So we really need to do a lot of work around violence prevention. Like I said, that's the work that I do. Our youth, we need to support them more. There are a lot of issues going on in the schools currently with our youth, and I feel we need more youth programs. And on the council, that's one of the things that I've championed, is making sure that we have a strategic plan, how we're gonna engage our youth, keep them engaged, provide them with after-school activities, with more jobs, and just really more mental health support, because they just came out of a pandemic where they were home for a year with no structure. And so I think that we really need to support them if we want to prevent crime. So definitely public safety, supporting nonprofits, supporting grassroots organizations, more youth programs. Those are things that I think we really need to focus on, plus the infrastructure, if we want a better Brockton.
Absolutely. So getting into some specific issues that our viewers have brought up to us, small business owners have expressed frustration over the process of getting their projects approved in a timely fashion. Concerns tend to deal with the length of time it takes to get approvals from different boards, different city departments, which in some cases has resulted in businesses just taking their business elsewhere.
Right.
If elected mayor, what would you do to combat this issue?
Well, I've already done some things around this. So I started a health equity task force during the pandemic, and I played a key role in hiring the small business tech person that's helping some of our small businesses to make sure that they have the resources that they need. We all know that a lot of the small businesses weren't structured properly to be able to receive the SBA and the PPP loans. So this tech person, I'm hoping that this role will grow and maybe we'll add on more to support especially minority-owned, female-owned businesses in the community, so that they have access to the funding that's available to them, so that they're businesses are structured properly. On top of that, we can provide more educational opportunities for our small businesses so that they can compete and grow jobs. I really think that if we support our small businesses, we can grow jobs, more jobs in the city. So I've already taken steps towards that, and I will continue to do that because I know the importance. And also making sure that we clean up our city by investing in our small businesses in the facade programs and making sure that their businesses look nice and clean outside, so that we can have, you know, a better business, attract more businesses to the city by improving the ones that we have. So we definitely, and as far as like the permitting, I sat on zoning for 2 years, so I know that that process can be lengthy and frustrating. So we definitely need to do better educating folks so they're well prepared when they come in front of these boards for different permits, and that will definitely expedite the process.
Okay, absolutely. So currently the mayor is elected every 2 years, but different city leaders have brought up the idea of lengthening that term to 3 or 4 years, you know, presumably to help them get more done and have more consistency in the leadership. So what are your thoughts on lengthening the mayoral term?
Definitely, because I think, you know, and for the councilors at large at least, I think that that would apply as well, because once you get in there for the 2 years, it really, you know, you could use a couple more years to really get your projects through. And I think that with the at-large councilors, I would even go as far as saying that they should be more full-time councilors, because I feel like we really don't have enough time to really do our due diligence to really help folks in the community being part-time counselors. It really is a full-time job. So I would be for us having an increase in the terms for the mayor and for the at-large councilors at least, if we can't do all of them.
Sure.
Because you just need that time to be able to get things done.
Yeah, absolutely. So another issue that Brockton is facing right now is that since its previous height a decade ago, when Brockton was recognized as a leader in closing the achievement gap in schools, Brockton has experienced a continual decline in academic outcomes. According to the most recent data, 10 of its 21 schools is now ranked within the lowest 10% of Massachusetts schools. So if you were to become mayor, you'd be the chair of the Brockton School Committee. So what do you think you could do as mayor to turn this around?
So during my time as a city councilor and with my nonprofit organization, I've worked closely with the superintendent on numerous projects. I was instrumental in getting us North Junior High as a community center so that grassroots organizations had a place to work. And then we are now at the Goddard School, and that was another one of my my advocacy letters to get that school as a community, for us to use as a community center. I think, Susanna, there are a lot of issues in the city right now. Our children are suffering. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of mental health and social emotional support that needs to be provided in order for us to see. You have to look at the whole picture, not just what's happening during their time in school, but what's happening outside of school, in the home, and everything that they're going through. And I think having a mayor that knows firsthand what that's like. I raised 3 kids. I was a single mom. I was 16 when I left home. You know, I went to nursing school, I struggled, I've been through poverty, all of that. I know firsthand, and being an immigrant myself, I know about the immigration trauma that's happening here in the city, where kids are being sent over without a parent. One parent stays back home, the other one comes over to the US. There's just a lot of issues surrounding why our achievement, you know, that where our schools are performing that the way that they are, and we have to look outside the box. I sat on a panel to hire the equity and inclusion, the diversity, equity, and inclusion director and assistant director that we just hired, and I've worked closely with Mike Thomas, making sure that we're adding more teachers of color and that we're supporting our kids so that they're getting the mental health support that they need. And I will continue to do that, because I think that in order for us to tackle what's going on in schools, we have to look at the whole picture and look at what's happening outside of the schools as well.
Okay, absolutely. So another thing that a lot of people have talked about is revitalizing downtown Brockton. But what might be able to do to revitalize not just the downtown, but the whole of Brockton?
Well, I've said this numerous times. I filed a resolution to look at code enforcement in the city. We have abandoned properties, I want to say at least 300 of them, that we need to look into making sure that we have a centralized code enforcement system, so we're collecting fines on those properties and maybe a process by which we sell some of them off so people are renovating them, and that we're beautifying the city. We have to improve the image of the city if we want to revitalize anything, and that means really looking at code enforcement to make sure that we're cleaning up some of these abandoned properties or selling them off, in a process to collect fines, a better process to collect fines to generate new revenue. So those are some of the things that I would really look at to make Brockton more attractive and improve our image, and also collect some money to so we're easing the burden on taxpayers. It would be a great way to collect new revenue and bring more businesses to the city. I'd love to see nicer restaurants. I'd love to see, movie theaters folks have talked about, and, just more little shops in the downtown area for people to go to. So those are things that we can all work towards. But first, we have to improve the image of the city, and we have to look at code enforcement in some of these abandoned properties.
Absolutely. So one thing that has been talked about a lot is, with the new public safety complex that's in the process of being put together. What is your approach to public safety?
Well, we talked a little bit about violence prevention, which is key to public safety. So you know that's near and dear to me, and that's the work that I do already. I voted against the public safety complex, not because of the complex itself, but because there was no public input in the actual borrowing of the $198 million. I felt like if we were going to borrow that amount of money, we should have included the public a little more. And only to be painted as anti-police. I'm not anti-police. My brother's a police officer. I'm a nurse. I worked on the front lines with police and fire throughout the pandemic, and I continue to work with them. So to me, public safety is addressing a lot of the concerns that we talked about early on in our conversation, and having better police-community relations, and having police more visible in the community. So that's how I would look at it. I mean, we certainly know that the police officers need a better home, but that doesn't mean that we have to centralize it. We could look at satellite police stations. These are all things that I thought that maybe the public could have weighed in to see if they wanted to have satellite stations like we have in Boston in the 4 areas of the city, as opposed to having them all in one central location. So I wanted more conversation. And again, I stress I'm not anti-police. I'm not defunding police. That's not who I am. I just wanted more input. I'm all about open, honest government, transparency, accountability, and just having conversations with our residents who are the taxpayers. And, as a counselor, I represent the taxpayers.
Right. For sure. So, we've talked a lot about some of the things that you've done as a city councilor. Are there any other successes from that time that we haven't talked about that you think would be important to mention?
Well, I've done a lot in 2 years.
Yeah.
So definitely the Health Equity Task Force was something that I take credit for. Myself and other community activists and nonprofits, we were key in making sure that we were providing recommendations to the administration as folks who know the city well on where to prioritize resources during a pandemic. So definitely that. The small businesses, everything that I've done to help with the tech support, definitely that. And then different resolutions that I filed on the council to prioritize youth sports, a soccer camp, a youth sports complex, or some things that I've talked about, the community center at the Goddard for sure. So all of my work has been based on my own life experiences, my relationship, my connection to the community, and what I see as a better Brockton for all of us, not just some of us, but the demographics here has changed a lot. And so we have to make sure we're including everybody in the conversation. And education has been key to me. I call it education equity. I borrow that from Julia Mejia in Boston. It's not mine, because she champions education equity. You can't do what you don't know. And we'll have a better Brockton if we have systems in place to educate people in the languages that they speak, read, write. And if they don't read and write, have ways to get information to them, so that they're clear on what is expected for all of us to have better community. And I think it behooves us to do that so that we can all live in community together. So I've championed education equity. Also having more folks at City Hall that speak the different languages in the police department, fire department, everywhere, just more diversity and inclusion so we can have a better Brockton.
Well, that's about all the time we have for now. But thank you so much for coming in and telling us, why you think you'd be a great candidate for mayor. And for everybody watching, thank you so much. And remember to vote on November 2nd.
Thank you very much.